talk. It's time for book chat. I am Patricia Dubroff. I'm with Assisting Hands Home Care, where we provide certified nursing aid support for our community in both Montgomery County, Maryland, and Fairfax County, Virginia. We have people joining us sometimes on book chat from all over the world. So I just like to make sure that folks know why we're doing this. So we believe very, very strongly in educating our community in all sorts of things. And during COVID, we decided that it would be really nice if we did something that was uplifting and fulfilling for our community. And so I've been searching out authors who don't always get the big recognition, but who can provide us with insight into how they became an author, why they became an author, as well as the subject matter of their story. And today we are very honored to have Tim Truitt with us, who has created a book based on Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, which we all know was very lengthy in words. And his version is haiku and photography. And it's quite dynamic. He hasn't published yet, and he's actually considering not publishing, but using it as a tool. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the interview. So I'm going to go through a couple of slides, and then we're going to start looking at Tim's work and learning more about Tim. So let me just get through my little intro as more people are coming in. So I love this picture. It's a throwback. It's my mom and dad's wedding picture. My mom got married in a green suit, and it was Depression time. And I just like people to know that family is so important to me, and honoring our elders is vital in our society as far as I'm concerned. And so I got into the field of arts and healing, and I spent about 35 years working with elders who were using art as free medicine. And creative engagement became a word knowledge among rec therapists, recreation therapists, and nursing home administrators. And I was invited to template some very exciting arts and healing projects around the Washington, D.C. area and beyond, including the VA hospital and the Hebrew home and Iona Senior Services. So now I come to home care with this need to provide more free medicine. And that's what I see Book Chat does. We're helping artists move forward in their authorship, but we're also helping our community by giving you a dose of creative engagement. So free medicine today, that's my treat to you all. And now let's talk a little bit about Tim. So welcome, Tim. I'm going to make you a co-host. You can unmute. There you go. That way we'll probably stay lit up when people are chatting. And if everybody else can mute, that really helps just to avoid the extra sound. I am recording this, and we'll only use your picture if you give me permission. But for the most part, we add these onto our website and let people come and visit and see what we did while they were doing other things. And then they can look at it anytime they want. We have a whole stockpile now of book chats, including Irene Shares, who's here with us today. Her book chat was quite fun about the care and feeding of the aging human male species. So we won't get into that, Tim, we promise. We'll just move right into what inspired you to start this book. And that's the piece that I'm showing everybody now. And that is that you want to say it in your own words, that's fine. People can read this as well.
Sure. Well, I'd seen an Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's movie, when it first came out in theaters, and I liked it. And more recently, I saw it again on DVD. And what I noticed about it was that there were many ideas presented one after the other. And so to help me understand the ideas in the movie, I thought, well, I should make a statement of each of the main ideas. And about that time, I started getting interested in poetry and haiku. Haiku is a form that has 3 lines, 5 syllables, and 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. I started noticing that in an Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore spoke enough 5 or 7 syllable phrases that I noticed. And so I thought, this could be the basis of a haiku. And
So
so
had you written haiku before?
No. Well, maybe just a few.
I mean,
but
like in high school, you learned what haiku was and then it
um,
went on a back table, or?
I might have encountered it then, but Montgomery College has a poetry group.
Hmm,
I found them through a meetup group. I can't remember the exact name of it now, but it's run by a couple of people in the English department there. So
that's great.
I'd put together some haiku for that event.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah,
So, and then you
mhm,
married these haiku to photographs, which we're all going to enjoy seeing in just a few minutes.
right.
But tell us about where the photographs came from. How did that happen?
Oh well, uh, some of them came from the movie. Some I bought. Some are from government sources like NASA, where I don't really need to do much to get permission to use them. Some I found via Google's image searches. And one of my reasons for not just going ahead with a book at this point is that I don't actually know who the copyright owner is for some of these images, but
Mm,
there is a provision in copyright law about fair use for educational purposes. And so
right.
after consulting my friend who's a writer and in the publishing business, I think I'm okay to do educational type things, which is fine because that's really what I was trying to do in the first place.
Yeah. So I
So,
think just to give a little more context
mhm.
before we jump into it, why don't you tell everybody about your vision for how you'd like to use this now that it's coalesced?
Okay, well, um, it started as a personal project for me, and then I had the pictures, and I thought, this is not bad. So um, I think it could be used for uh, as an educational type source for a wide range of people. Could be for students in schools, maybe people interested in activism. I am available to give the whole presentation. We won't have time to go through all of them. There are, I think, 79 haiku and 73 pages in the PowerPoint presentation. Um, but uh, I think I'll probably be contacting people in schools, or if anybody in the audience has any ideas, I'd like to hear about that too.
That's
So
great.
basically, um,
What do you
oh,
hope to have
okay,
people experience when they look at your
hmm
work? Like any artist,
right,
we sort of
okay.
have these expectations. What's something that you'd like the audience to go away with?
I would like them to remember some of the ideas. And after I went through it looking for the main ideas in Al Gore's movie, I found that some of the main ones were that the activities around the climate crisis, action or inaction, are essentially moral questions, and so that's one idea I hope people will go away with. And another is that probably the single biggest thing that people can do to affect the climate crisis, because it's a big problem on a large scale, is through by simply voting, because the levers of government are one of the is where where people can have the most effect, I think. Um, and maybe another idea is that the scientific and technological questions are no longer the main questions at this point. It's more a matter of action.
Mhm.
So, um,
Well, that's great. I'm gonna put those in little bullets when we do the movie so people can kind of get that come
okay.
away with thing. I think that's really great. Let's shall we take a look, everybody? You curious?
Sure.
Okay. I have to stop sharing this screen and start sharing a different screen. So give me one technological moment to breathe.
Okay, I'd like to start the first slide, go through about the first 10, and we'll start jumping around to some others
Yep, that's where I'm aiming.
if we have time.
Yep, sounds perfect. Okay.
Okay, here we are. An inconvenient truth in very few words. Okay. Death of denial in many minds at same time, a transformation. A new, better world. Have you tried? Maybe you can. The birth of courage. Longing to return, to see, feel, and breathe real peace. This is why I strive.
That's the one we used on our promo for this event.
Oh, okay.
Raise of hands, how many people really connected with this one? I don't know. This just seemed so perfect for right now in our world. Breathe real peace. I love that.
Bad things getting worse. We see the changes coming. Predictable woe. Calls for big changes, the moral imperative. We cannot avoid. To see more clearly, go out far and turn around. Look homeward and see. Ground, then air, then space. How thin is the atmosphere? We can see through it.
It's such a great image.
Burning and burning, CO2 accumulates. We know what that means. Increased CO2, thermodynamics happens. Gets a lot hotter. I have a comment about this slide. This is a picture of Svante Arrhenius. He was a chemist. He's well known to chemist. And he was also, I think, the first person to develop a quantitative relationship between CO2 concentration in the atmosphere and global average temperature. And so if you want to have fun with people, you can tell them that this happened. And this is, basically a settled scientific question in 96. And then you can say 1896. Because the date of this paper is right up there at the top. It is April 1896. And another fun fact about him, some of you may have heard of Greta Thunberg, or I think the Swedish would say Greta Thunberg, but her father is named Svante, and he's named after this Svante, who is a distant relative, actually.
That's a great factoid. That would really ring true if you're working with young adults teaching this. That would be a nice, connector. Yes. So do you want me to, oops, sorry, that was inadvertent. Do you want me to go to a specific slide, or do you want to?
Is this slide 25?
No, that's 13. Do you want me to go to
Oh,
25?
well, this is a good one.
I mean, they're all great. And,
Okay.
you know, I don't mind. Keep going. What is our audience feeling
Okay.
like? Are you enjoying the
Well,
reading? Yeah. It looks
okay.
like a positive.
Well, Antarctic ice cores are a way to know what the temperature was in the past. There's little bubbles in the ice are little samples of what the atmosphere was like, in some cases hundreds of thousands of years ago. So that's one of the ways that we can know what the temperature was like before there were people walking around with thermometers. Right, so the haiku: bubbles trapped in snow. The ice has stories to tell. Hot, cold, history. Um, well, we can read this one too, and then maybe we'll go to 25.
Okay. I like this one because it's a little more like, I don't know what the word is. The image is that like real lessony, you know,
Mhm.
it's like,
Yes, this is the sort of thing that a teacher could take and expand quite a bit on. Um, Also, in that ice core, there's frozen water, and water is H2O. Oxygen comes in two isotopes, oxygen 16, oxygen 18, and how much of each varies with temperature of the water that it evaporated from. So, um, needless to say, that could take quite a bit more explanation. But if somebody was interested in it, they could do that. But the haiku is simply oxygen 18, isotopic ratio, ice thermometer.
good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a whole poetry lesson for kids nonstop, kids and adults. That's great. All right, so let me go
Right.
back to,
Let's try 25.
yep, heading that way. It's kind of like getting a box of those candies where everything in the box, every candy in the box is different and you want to try them all. That's the way I feel about this book. It's just each one has you captured so much information and the importance of it, and then kind of brought it into this concise haiku. I love haiku because of that. But so thank you, Tim.
Okay. Arctic, Antarctic, canaries in the coal mine. What will happen now?
So what is this image that we're looking at?
It's showing how much ice there was over the North Pole at two different dates.
1930, is that what it says? In 2012?
I think it might be 1980.
Oh, okay, right, because they wouldn't have had this in 30. They wouldn't have had this satellite imagery.
Right, and then 2012.
Wow.
On
So
the
not
same
even that
day,
much
on the
time.
same day of the year, too, of course.
Of course.
Yes, 1980. Okay.
Wow.
And how do we react when again we hear warnings? We need to decide. We can go to the next one, which is 25.
Mhm.
What do we do now? Make sure everybody knows. Speak the truth again. And we can go to the next slide too, 26, which has no haiku, but these are several people who have things to say about the climate crisis. Elon Musk, Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all people, who would have predicted that when he was making Conan the Barbarian?
Right.
Greta Thunberg, and Nicholas Stern, who's an economist. Let's try number 30, trying to be aware of the time. Earth, air, water, sun, a climate system it is. System laws apply. Our planet's climate, a nonlinear system. has big sudden jumps. What does all this mean? Big changes can happen fast. Bad news for farming.
You know, I work a lot in the field of cognitive challenges. And we talk about how the changes can happen so quickly for someone to reach a different plateau. And in this case, the plateaus are really about deficit, about loss of cognition. And I never really connected it back to the earth, but it's so similar. You know, they could stay in that plateau for a while, you know, but then they're going to drop again. And that's kind of what I'm seeing in this imagery. Beautiful.
Well,
Where would you
there's
like
some
to?
things that change gradually and slowly, and you change one
Right, like
thing and the other
hearing
thing
and
changes proportionally. But there are other systems where that's not true. And those would be the
right.
nonlinear systems. And,
Yeah. Oof.
how about that was 30, how about 34? Okay, well, um, this is about feedback and feedback loops. Um, the picture at the bottom is an amplifier, and an electrical engineer would say, I'm missing some things in this diagram, and I am. But the the important point is that in this diagram with feedback, there's a connection between the output of the amplifier at the pointy end of the triangle and the input. And that drastically changes things. Um, so, for example, if you've heard Jimi Hendrix with his, he puts his guitar pickup next to the speaker, and that's an example of feedback. So things can change when you have feedback like this. So the haiku are, the effect is a cause. More heat leads to yet more heat. Climate feedback loop. Feedback loops like this, unstable the system makes. Runaway greenhouse. And on the left-hand side of the slide, I have examples of two climate feedback loops. There are actually many more. But one is about the polar ice, where if the temperature goes up, the ice shrinks, so more of the dark sea underneath is exposed, which absorbs heat more, which causes the temperature to go up. So it's a feedback loop. Another one's related to permafrost. The temperature goes up, permafrost melts, permafrost releases methane. Methane is also a greenhouse gas, which causes more heating, which causes more permafrost to melt. And so that's a type of situation where a relatively small effect can end up having big results because the effect gets amplified by the feedback. And these are not the only two climate feedbacks also. So it's so just two examples.
It's interesting too, the way you've designed this page. The descriptions almost look like they could be haiku. I'm counting on my fingers.
Oh, okay. I hadn't
It's like
noticed that.
sea ice melts, darken ocean exposed to the sun. Does that make a haiku?
I don't know.
That was close, though. I think that was close.
All right, let's try 44.
It's also the kind of book that you really want to spend time with each page. It's almost like it would make a lovely daily meditation calendar kind of thing to me.
And although we're skipping over, the pages are connected. They do together tell a story.
They flow. I know.
Right. So here's Greta Thunberg giving a harsh look to the United Nations Secretary General. I really love this picture. So warnings must be heard. Speak so our leaders listen. Respond to warnings. say it like it is, a climate emergency. Action needed now. Let's try 45. I might have to start skipping over a few. We're getting close to time. Oh, here's one with no pictures, deliberately. It's clear what to do. We only need to do it. Break out of pattern.
So when you were writing these, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Did you have you said, you jumped off of Al Gore's imagery and text, but were there certain haikus that you created and then went, this one, I need this photo, or, oh, this photo, I need this haiku, or like this, where it's crystal clear, you need nothing?
Yes, I felt free to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try 49 and 50. Patterns of the past, we can't simply continue. Nothing stays the same. In the year 1900, all of these people would have been emperors. And now I think there's still a Japanese emperor, but nobody listens to him. I mean, ships don't move and armies don't march based on what he says. But in 1900, there was an actual emperor of Austria, for example, but not anymore. So things do change. You're now entering the Anthropocene epoch. Cannot continue making mistakes with nature. Nature remembers. Time to be honest. We are a force of nature. What kind will we be? All right, let's almost out of time, so let's jump to 68.
Okay. And we don't, there's nobody going to chase us off of here. So if we run over a few minutes, it's okay.
Okay. And for the people on the call, Patricia had offered to record me reading these, and I think I will do that.
Yeah, so we'll have a little audio, video, as well as this interview. I think it'll make a nice package.
So one of the things people commonly think when they hear about the climate crisis is, oh, that sounds like a hard problem. And so I would say, yes, it is. Are we capable of doing difficult things? Ancestors say, yes. I'd like to see the next slide too, which is another example of ancestors doing difficult things. Actually, I'd just like to go from this slide through to the end. So, well, I mean, including slide 70.
Sure. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I'm just going to switch to the others.
Political will. No more ozone hole crisis. That's how to do it. To solve the problem, use our political will. Yes, we can do that. Civilization, our ability to live, that's what is at stake. What kind of future? This is a moral question. Have hope, take action. If I could go back to the last slide for a second, one of the actions that people took after World War II to create the institutions shown at the bottom, which were basically world-changing, radical thinking, and because they were highly motivated. They'd seen how bad war could be. So they created the United Nations, NATO, the European Union, the World Bank, and some others too. So we can go to the next one, I think. A window's open. The future is visible. Is it what we want? Our children will ask, what were you thinking? Hear that question now.
So, Tim, thank you for this. Do you consider yourself an activist? Have you worked in this field before? Are you, I mean, I know you don't do this as your day job. You're not an EPA person.
Right. I would say I'm not currently an activist. I have the ambition to do that. And so I've signed up for some training with Al Gore's current organization, which is called the what is it? The Climate Reality Project. So I think once or twice a year they hold some training, which this year will be online. In past years it's been in person, where they will basically train people to be activists. And since this is a big problem, the talents of a lot of people are required, and different talents too. And so regardless of what it is that you're good at, or even can become good at, there's probably a way for you to contribute to helping solve this problem.
Yeah, I think you can consider yourself an activist because you wrote this book. I nod to that. Right. I honor you, humble sir. But I was just curious, you know, we grew up in the same sort of world of activism, and you know, I was trained to be an activist back in when the first Earth Day came around. I was, you know, licking stamps and sending out flyers for the first Earth Day, attending demonstrations, whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to be activists, but I really like the way you captured so much creativity and made that the catalyst for change. And I think it's a great use of your talents and your smarts. Clearly a very smart guy. And it's a beautiful book to read through. I mean, I've enjoyed looking at it so many times.
Okay, well, I hope to record it and then we can share it with other people.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Oh, and I'll just invite other people in the audience to contact me if you have an interest in this topic.
So let's hear from the audience. Irene, did you want to say something?
Yeah, a couple things. Tim, I really just enjoyed the few things that we saw right now, the snapshots. I have a couple of thoughts. One is I almost feel like there's a user's manual that needs to go along with this. It kind of explaining in background some of the things you touched on. And that would even make it a really good teaching tool. And I'm also struck by, I don't know if you did it consciously or unconsciously, but in terms of teaching in schools, you've kind of hit a lot of different learning modalities in terms of poetry, different from visual, different from cognitive, different from sensory. I feel like it's just an amazing learning tool. I really feel drawn to it.
Oh, well, thank you. I wasn't sure whether it should go into the physics class or the English class, or history or government or all of them. I don't know.
Well, if you're talking about climate change, maybe it needs to be all of that.
Yeah. Integrated,
you know, kind of creative joining of a lot of different kind of what seem like disparate fields but aren't.
Okay.
And how nice that you can use creativity to weave through those different fields beautifully. You got some nice chat from New Zealand. Sherry says she started writing poems recently and is now known as a Japanese short form poet and created more than 100 poems published around the world. Mary says these are lovely photos and beautiful haikus. And Sylvia said, fascinating combination of science and poetry makes those of us who aren't into science excited about it. That's a great result, Matt. Especially as it relates to climate change. I think Al Gore would approve, would definitely buy the book. And
Well, I may be contacting them to ask permission to use some of the pictures.
sure. Well, and I think, contacting the, now that you're going to be involved with the activist training, certainly, this is a great way for you to learn who the people are to get to them, because that would be a great marketing tool. Getting on their, board. That's awesome. That's great. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to wrap up by thanking Tim profusely for doing this, and I'm looking forward to setting up a video recording schedule with you. I'd also like to remind folks that we do 4 events every month, and our next event is Yoga for Self-Care, and you're all invited to join us for a delicious, restorative, easygoing yoga class at 3 o'clock on a week from today. And then the following Friday, we've got Jules Abate, who is with the ARC of Montgomery County. And she's going to talk about respite services and other programs that the ARC of Montgomery County provides for our residents. And then on Tuesday, I'll be entertaining you with Death Cafe. We talk about all things death and dying from a non-religious and non-political standpoint. It's quite a nice chat. And then at the end of the month, our next book chat will be with Nicole Burton. She's a local author, also from Prince George's County. And she's written a delightful memoir about finding her birth parents as an adult adoptee, and the challenges that go into that, because typically you don't, by the time you find out who the parents are, they may have already passed away. So it's quite a beautiful story. It's called Swimming Up the Sun. And I look forward to sharing more great things with you guys throughout the summer. We're not going to go live with events until probably the fall. So continue enjoying the gas-free Zoom sessions that help our planet in oh so many ways. And Tim, last words?
I just thank you, Patricia, for hosting the event.
You're welcome. We met serendipitously, and
Yes.
I'm delighted that this is the fruition of 6 months ago or something, talking about this. So great. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.